welcome back, friends and neighbors. How are you today? It's your old buddy Brad coming to you from somewhere out in the sticks. One of my favorite places. God bless you. Having good friends. I got a good buddy, YouTuber, Tom at the Turkey's Opinion. He did a very in-depth deep dive review on the Ruger SFAR, and man, did he have some issues. And I watched other videos on the SFAR, and some people were having the same issues, some were having not quite as many, and some were having none that I could see. And it seems to me the general consensus about the Ruger SFAR is either you get a good one or you get a lemon. I mean, you might as well just run it over with a tractor, save the juice, and get you some good summertime drink. And I thought, boy, it'd be fun to get my hands on one of them, maybe see what all the frou-frou-all's about. But I wasn't going to go out and buy one. And I came out to spend about 10 days out in the middle of nowhere, and on my second day here, I run into my good buddy that lets me use his range that I shoot a lot of my videos on. And turns out that he has a friend that just bought a Ruger SFAR. And he wanted it tested, shot in, according to Ruger's book, 1 to 200 round break-in. The optics set up and just things like that, and see what he thought about it. And he and I encountered one another, and he said, "Fancy running into you." He said, "I got a question." And I said, "What's your question?" He said, "How would you feel about going out and helping out with this?" I said, "Wait a minute. You got ammo?" He said, "Yeah, I got a couple hundred rounds." I said, "Well, let's see. Basically, with the exception of 40 rounds fired to test, a brand new SFAR and 200 rounds of M80 ball, twist my arm, baby, and twist it now, but you won't have to twist it hard." So really, sometimes the universe provides. And Tom, if you're watching this, this is not a show-up video or anything. Buddy, I'm getting ready to see if a 16-inch barreled SFAR like the one you had that gave you so much problems, I'm prone to doing that elsewhere. Sometimes you see stuff on the tube, and I know here I am, a YouTuber, talking about it, but it's kind of sus to use the vernacular of the younger generation, because you don't know if you get a cherry pick, you don't know if somebody's got support, you don't know, you just don't know. Well, so I'm going to find out for myself. And Tom, stay tuned, buddy, because we're going to find out if you and I have the same kind of luck with SFARs. Now, it's been raining out there for about 3.5 hours straight, like cow pissing off a high cliff onto a flat rock, so I got to give it a little time to dry out before I can get back down on the range. But I wanted to do this little intro and let you guys know what it is I intend to do, other than just go out and burn up a bunch of somebody else's ammo, which I've always been really happy to do that. We're going to check some things, we're going to look at some things, and we're going to see if this is something that's happening platform-wide. And one of the things we're going to be paying close attention to is the gas regulator system. Now, I'll put a little page from Ruger's book up here on a still in a minute. On that page in their book, when they talk about using this gas system and what settings you use for what, they really don't get absolutely specific technically wise. But here's what they do say. This system has 4 settings: 0, 1, 2, 3. 0 is when you want to use it as a single shot. Okay, a manually operated AR. Why? They recommend setting 1 for suppressed fire. Now, I assume they mean suppressed fire with a suppressor using regular supersonic ammunition. Because let's face it, a subsonic 308 is basically a 45 ACP. Why shoot it? Energy-wise, it might have a tad on it, but really it depends on your bullet weight. Setting 2 is noted as this setting is the most commonly used setting for reliable function, and I'm paraphrasing, of commercial ammunition. Now, I take that to mean commercial loaded ammunition. Remington, Winchester, Hornady, all the big name boys with their commercial grade 308 that is made to run across platforms. Semi-autos, bolt actions, single shots. But we're using M80 ball. Lake City match, NATO. And that's the same ammunition, if I recall correctly, that Turkey's Opinion was using. So we may get some idiosyncrasies just like he did. Now, he was using a 16-inch version, and that's what this is. Other people with 20-inch barrels weren't reporting quite so much of a problem. Setting number 3 is the highest, and in videos where I've seen people running NATO ammunition on 3, it's also the gassiest. So if you like breathing in aerosol vaporized lead, particulate, powder, and all those other fun gases, well, setting 3 is probably the one you're going to love the most. That's mainly what I'm paying attention to on this, because I want to know what's going on here. Now, one of the other things we're going to pay attention to is bolt hold open. Tom had a lot of issues with the bolt locking completely to the rear on an empty magazine, and even with being able to manually engage his bolt hold open, it would still come loose. So that's something we're going to look for too. This does have a 2-stage trigger in it, and the testing is pretty sweet. I don't think that's factory. Now, when you get to looking at this, I was looking it over, and I did notice something on the gas tube. Most normally with a good tight fit, the gas tube, as it comes from the rear of the gas block, even after a full range day, yes, you're going to see some black discoloration for an inch or so down the tube, and the rest of it's going to be bright. I've noticed this one, with the few rounds it's had fired through it, has gas discoloration over half the length of the exposed portion of that gas tube. Now that tells me something. It tells me that maybe there's a little blow-by, a little bleed-off coming around the end of that tube, and that may be part of the issue for some people's weapons when the settings don't seem to work the way the book recommends you use them. So, in all that, while we're doing that, while we're looking for this, here's how we're going to be utilizing this weapon. When we first roll out, we're going to have this fine-looking noise exacerbator on the front of it. I'm sure it has to be there, because if it's as good a brake as it needs to be for an AR weight platform, you're going to want a good brake. We're going to have that on there, and we're going to start on setting 2 with supersonic M80 ball and test it for function, see how it does. If we have issues, we'll go to the 3rd setting, and hopefully we won't wind up in blackface at the end of the range session. Once we do that, then we're going to pull that brake and put on a can. Now, the can I'm putting on the end of this weapon is a big one. It's custom built. It was designed for a .338 Lapua Magnum. So it's got one heck of a hefty blast chamber area inside it. Lots of free space for a lot of gas. And hopefully that's going to mitigate any compressed additional gas coming back down the tube into the action. I sure hope it does. Because as gassy as this thing appears to be in some videos, if you go to adding gas, oh my God. But we'll start that on setting 1, where the book recommends using a suppressor. And we'll fire that for function, see if it operates reliably. And if it doesn't, we'll step up to setting 2 and see if that makes a difference. So that's basically what we're going to do. Now, at the end of that, I'm going to pull that can off, and I'm going to leave that brake off, and then we're going to fire some and see if I can feel, and if the camera might see, a visible or felt difference in the recoil impulse of this weapon. I'm sure I'm kind of anxious to experience that, because it'll tell us if that brake's worth a shit or not. That's basically how we're going to do it. Now, we'll fire to see what kind of accuracy it gets. But remember, and keep this in mind, this optic is a combat optic. It's a vortex strike fire. For those of you familiar with the vortex strike fire, you know the reticle I'm talking about. Basically, 3 parts of a 4-part segmented circle, vertical post with some lines, and the top of the vertical post is your center reticle. So as far as trying to see if we can wring a hell of a lot of accuracy out of it, that is going to be dependent upon magnification. It only goes 1 to 7, and the distance to the target. But I'm sure it can shoot some pretty damn fine groups. And in testing yesterday, when my friend fired it, he was stringing them right there together. So I'm curious, I'm anxious, I'm kind of bubbly and tumbly, you know, because I think it's going to be fun. I never really thought I was going to get an opportunity to get my hands on one of these and play with it. So I'm kind of, yeah, man, yeah. And I thought Tom might appreciate it. And if you guys haven't heard of his channel, The Turkey's Opinion, it's a good channel. And he goes very in-depth. He goes all the way, baby. I mean, what the girls might call nut deep. He wants to know what a weapon's going to do. And he gives it a fair trial. He doesn't start out biased. He does his thing.
You'll need to unlock your iPhone first.
I don't have to unlock anything, Siri. Now Siri's interrupting me. But if you've never watched his channel, check him out. The Turkey's Opinion. He does a fine job. He has a lot of fun out in his backyard. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do some suppressed with supersonic ammo. We're going to do a bare front. We're going to do the brake. We're going to see just what settings M80 ball NATO needs, and then we've got a box of some 178 match to get a little comparison with. So without further ado, let's give the range time to dry out, and I'll be dropping the range portion of this video fairly soon, probably within a day, maybe sooner, depending on the ground, how much rain we got out there. So stand by, stay tuned, and we'll be coming right back at you here in a little bit. Thanks for stopping in. Bye.